the real issue is that domestic violence is alive and well in all communities, especially in higher income communities.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, after a long and successful career in the corporate world, today's guest took a leap to fulfill her lifelong dream of becoming a filmmaker. You may remember our conversation years ago when she created the documentary Beyond 60. And since then, she's been very busy. She produced Climbing into Life, and that's a film about the oldest woman to scale El Capitan, who actually is the mom of climber Alex Honnold. You may have heard about him. He's been in the news. And now she's back with a brand new project, quite different. She's documenting the work of a domestic violence center in Pennsylvania, and I am just delighted to have her on to talk about that. Melissa Davey, hi, thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's great to be with you again.
I appreciate it. That was quite a while ago.
It was.
Well, we've been here for over 8 years, so yeah. But you've been busy.
I have been busy.
Yeah,
it seems the older I get, the busier I get.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but in a good way.
In a good way. So tell me about, and I know you've been asked this, but I'm very curious, why domestic violence? And how do you choose your topics?
Well, when I first started out as a filmmaker at age 65, and that was 10 years ago, I decided to do something that related to me as a 65-year-old woman at the time. And that was to try to find other women who were, not celebrities, just average women, and listen to their stories. Because one of the things that I found was that they were uniquely positioned in life to have a lot of experience and have some really interesting and inspiring stories. So that's how I started out, to say, I'm going to find women over the age of 60 and try to, take their stories out and inspire people to maybe take a look at themselves and challenge themselves as to what they might do as they get older. And it was amazing. With the first one, Beyond 60, was 9 women. 9 women.
Unbelievable.
And, incredible stories. And that started me realizing that, I'm going to focus on women because they aren't out there enough. There aren't enough stories about older women. So that was my plan. So that's out, and people can find that streaming. And then the second one that you mentioned, Climbing into Life, is the life story of Deirdre Wallenick, who, is the mother of the famous free solo climber Alex Honnold.
Solo, right.
Yeah. And that was a fascinating story that I just happened to bump into. And she was so excited about taking her story, which she had put in book form, and making it into a film. So that's been great. And right now we're working on distribution for that film. So soon that will be out and people can stay tuned. And at the end of this, I'll tell them how they can find that information.
But I actually interviewed her
Oh, you
I
did?
remember one of the things I remember is, and correct me about the details, that she celebrated her 70th birthday with champagne on
Yes.
top of El Capitan.
Yes. And that was her
That,
second venture. The first one at 66 was the first time she claimed the title of oldest woman. She went up
hmm
with her son. He took her up. And
Oh,
people,
that's beautiful.
it is. And people need to understand she wasn't an athlete. She didn't do anything athletic till she was 60. So and if you've
Wow.
ever stood below El Cap, which is
Oh,
over 3,000 feet straight up,
straight up.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is amazing. So
Yeah.
that
And
was an
there,
amazing story.
that's an amazing story. And I remember talking to her and I was touched by that she said she kind of wanted to figure out what's this climbing stuff all about and kind of
Right.
as a way to understand her son.
Exactly.
And I thought, some people take up tennis or some people take up pickleball. So she's going to take up scaling El Capitan to
Yeah.
kind of get to know her son better and enrich the relationship. I thought that was really quite lovely.
Yeah. It's
So
very interesting.
it's very interesting. So you've met with these inspiring, zesties as I call them,
Hmm.
and then you found your way to, I guess, what's understood to be a pretty renowned or well respected domestic violence center in Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you how that happened. As I was sitting here thinking about, I definitely want to stay in the lane of women's stories. A friend that I used to work with is on the board of the Women's Center of Montgomery County, which is here in Pennsylvania. It's the county that I live next to. And she contacted me to say that they were getting ready to celebrate their 50th year of providing services to women and individuals in Montgomery County. And they were thinking about maybe doing a short little documentary to do a celebratory kind of a film.
Mm,
And I met with them and I was so struck by the work that they're doing and how they do it and how impressive it is compared to
mm,
other programs I've seen. We started talking and it just became bigger and it became, you know what,
mm,
this is a documentary waiting to happen.
mhm.
So that's how it started. I came in thinking I was going to do a 3 to 5 minute celebratory film, and this is now going to be a feature length documentary. Um, and
Boy,
what
and the time is right.
Yes, absolutely right. And I mean, my eyes have been opened the last few months working
Mm,
on this. I have actually completed the actual filming of it. Now we're just beginning the editing process to
mhm.
have this film available for their 50th anniversary gala event in October. So I have to
Mhm.
work fast and furious the
Mhm.
next few months to get this pulled together. But the information is incredible. And the research that I've been doing is a real eye opener.
Tell me about that, Melissa. You said it was an eye opener, and I was already planning on saying, "Oh, what did you learn?" Right? What?
Yeah.
What? Tell me more.
Well, when you look at it from a national perspective and you see the number 77 million people affected by domestic violence, and that could be, physical violence, emotional violence, financial, there
Mhm.
are all kinds
Control.
of issues related to domestic violence that really, I mean, it opened my eyes to understanding that it's more than just being strangled or it's more than just being
Mm.
beat up. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing. And so many people, especially women, and there are a few men that suffer from it as well, but it is
Mhm.
predominantly women at the hands of men. It is a crisis. And what hit me was when I started looking at statistics nationally within the state of Pennsylvania and then in Montgomery County, it made me realize that this is something that needs to be talked about, and we don't. We talk about cancer statistics, we talk about shooting statistics, but we we don't hear a lot on a day-to-day basis about domestic violence. And there are probably a lot of reasons for that: shame and deflection and, all kinds of things that kind of keep it under the radar. And it needs to be screamed from the top of the mountaintop. It really does.
Did it affect your worldview? I mean, I'm wondering if how you don't become cynical and even pessimistic about sort of the state of the world. Is that something that you had to deal with?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm dealing with that on a global issue every day now anyway, like
Right.
everybody else. So
Right.
it was kind of like piled on to everything else that we're hearing about on a daily basis, the things that are just wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
this is just one of them. And it really bothers me that it isn't out there. So hearing the stories of people who have been through domestic violence, or didn't hearing the stories of people who didn't make it through domestic
Oh
violence,
gosh.
it's disturbing. However, it is, when you put it in a factual kind of picture, it's just, you're gathering evidence and you're just trying to put it in a story that will impact people and maybe want to give them a reason to dig a little deeper and maybe look to where they live, or maybe look to a relationship that they've had or are in and question whether or not they might be suffering from domestic violence.
Mhm.
It's, what struck me the most, and this was, I don't know whether it was my naivety, but I was shocked that there is no socioeconomic barrier when it comes to domestic violence. And in the past, I think that I was peppered with the media usually talking about domestic violence in a poor setting.
Mhm.
Poor people suffer from domestic violence.
Mhm.
Poor Black communities, poor Hispanic communities. That seems to be the story that I have seen more often than not. But in doing the research and spending time with the Women's Center of Montgomery County, what I found was that is a smaller percentage, actually.
Mhm.
And that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But
Yes.
it also made me say, well, why would I even believe that or think that that is the real issue? The real issue is that domestic violence is alive and well in all communities,
Mhm.
especially in higher income communities.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, as a social worker, I think that if you're poor and you don't have opportunities and you're stressed and you're more likely to, have unstable mental health because maybe you don't have adequate income, all of these things. But it sounds like that is simply does not hold up,
Nope.
what you're saying.
No.
That's very interesting. Well, hi, Zesties. In addition to being a podcaster and psychotherapist, I'm an avid thrifter. And I think it's something you either love or you hate. I've always loved finding treasures, and it makes me happy to keep things out of the landfill. You may already know that fast fashion is a real scourge on the environment. And I have a few podcast episodes that explore this. One of my favorites is with Eric Minter, who's the world's authority on the secondhand market. His book, Secondhand, is really recommended. And here I'm digressing. The reality is that I love to thrift, but I also like to wear the same basic outfit. So I've started an account on eBay I wanted to tell you about. Here's a humble brag. I have an eye for quality pieces. Linen and cashmere are my favorites, and I'd love you to check it out. Go on eBay and type in Nikki's Thrifty, and it's NICKY apostrophe S Thrifty with a Y, and see what you think. I'd love your feedback. You said something earlier on, Alyssa. You said, the Women's Center in Montgomery County, it does
does something better and even maybe different. They're impressive. What's different about the Women's Center?
Yeah, the Women's Center of Montgomery County is very unique in that they have 50 years. I mean, not too many nonprofits make
Oh.
it 50 years, number one. And
Mm-hmm.
number two, when I look at their humble beginnings of their first budget of $3,000 and a group of women who were in the 70s who were coming into their feminism and saying, gee, maybe we ought to have a place for women to chat, and just setting up a center, not knowing who was going to call in, and then finding out that the predominant calls were related to domestic violence. They were shocked, and they immediately set out to say, okay, we need to set up services for these people. We need to help them find shelter. We need to help them with the legal process. And that's what they started 50 years ago. And now they've grown, to just under a $2 million budget. And, for a nonprofit, that's pretty big. They have more than 140 volunteers. But what they have done so uniquely and so well, which will be shown in this film, is that they have figured out what it is, what connections do they need to make in the community in order to better serve the individual on the other end of the phone. And that is, okay, where do we go first? Well, let's go to the courthouse. Let's see what we can do there. And over the years, what has happened, they actually have staff from the Women's Center at the courthouse in Montgomery County.
Wow.
And yeah, and I mean, every day, they're there every day. They meet with victims of domestic violence. They help them filling out the incredible, long, drawn out paperwork that they need to do to, discuss their claim and try to describe what has happened to them. People would have a great deal of difficulty doing that on their own, especially if they're they're upset, they're scared. And so these three women are there. And I met with the court administrator as well as one of the judges who will be shown in the film. And they said unequivocally, we would not be able to do our jobs as well as we do to help these individuals if the Women's Center wasn't here working with us every single day. So that is a very unique setup where they have offices right there. The next thing they did was they were seeing that, many times if there's physical abuse, the woman might end up in an emergency room. Well, when you go into an emergency room, and I'm sure all of us have been there once or went with somebody and saw how crowded it is and how impersonal it is when you first arrive, they wanted to ensure that women who had issues with domestic abuse would be able to go into the emergency room, however, skip the front end emergency room process and be taken to a safe center. And that safe center is manned by people who are related to the Women's Center of Montgomery County.
So that it helps them. Yeah, the safety is.
Yes, they go into a place that is completely shut off. Not, no one else will see them. If there is the person who is the perpetrator of the domestic violence, many times follows the person to the emergency room and many times shows up in the emergency room. With the safe center, the person is far away from that emergency room, behind closed doors with a person who is helping to take care of them. So it's just a really unique way of providing services to ensure that all the things where you might fall through the cracks are really looked at and taken care of.
Yeah, you wouldn't think of it unless you sort of follow that trail and were really thoughtful about it and talk to the clients and
Exactly.
and said where could we have been more helpful.
It's constantly, that's what they do so well, is constantly looking at how do we better serve this type of a caller? What do we do? They actually go out and change people's locks. They go out and they survey the house to make sure that there are no openings where an individual could crawl in and harm them.
Oh
I
gosh.
mean,
So
they do incredible work. Another thing we did was meet with the one of the chief of police at a local, police station within Montgomery County, and he talked to me about how important the connection between the Women's Center and the police station is, and how they work together to provide the appropriate service at the appropriate time, and make sure that the person that they go out to see when the call comes in to the 911 call center, they go out and they already have connections to the Women's Center and can make the immediate connection for them.
because it must be hard for the police officers too. I understand that it's obviously very volatile, and they can get
Yes.
caught up in that too. So I'm sure knowing that they have backup and support and they don't have to kind of make it up as they
Yes.
go along must really help them feel more comfortable and confident.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the police have a very difficult job, and
Mm-hmm.
they get a bad rap, generally speaking. But I mean, I was so impressed with this department and how they are open to training around domestic violence. I know the Women's Center goes right to the police station to train them on a regular basis as to what to look for, what to say, when to make the referral, how to make the referral. And it's an amazing partnership that they have. And the police station was very, very impressive with how they
Wow.
deal with these instances of violence.
That's really something. I hear your passion, and I
Yeah.
hear your sort of, you keep talking about how impressive it is, but I also hear like it hits deeply, and it sounds like it's been a very meaningful experience for you as a woman to see this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, again, like I said, I thought it was going to just be a small little project. And as we looked at it, it became so big and so important. And anything that I can do in my life to help any other woman, whether it's one woman or a million women, that's what I feel like I'm here to do, whether it's through my films of stories of women, or whether it's a project like this that's looking at something that's really hard to look at and hard to discuss. It's just so important. And if I can change one life, then I've done my job through film. And
Is this your legacy film, Melissa?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm hitting 76, and I really want these films to be my legacy. I want women's voices to continue to be heard. I want women to feel comfortable telling their stories, whether it's a good story or a very, very difficult story. That's what I want. I just want to help women have their voices heard in a way that will challenge maybe the way people think about any issue that they're discussing.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear it's like the reason you went into this, right? I mean,
Yes.
that when you jumped into it after retirement, it sounded like, from what I remember, you've always wanted to express yourself. You've always
Yeah.
wanted to create in this way, and sort of bringing that inside outside.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've been able to do that in telling stories that are very different.
Yeah. It is an amazing thing to, leave your corporate career at age 65 and say, gee, what am I going to do next? And then pick this as,
Yes.
and I think a lot of it was related to myself, because I had a lot of stories and I had a lot of things to say in the world, and people that know me will laugh at that and say, she sure does. So I knew other women did too. And that was the impetus to say, let me find them and let me help tell their stories, because people will learn something from each one of those stories and really challenge the way they feel about something that they may have had all wrong all along. The challenging is good. The challenging of ourselves and others and opinions and what we see in front of us is a good thing. And that's what I hope to do with films, is to create dialogue.
Yes. What would be the ultimate goal for this film? What would you love to happen?
Well, my goal, I think the center's goal is, gee, Melissa, can you please get it done for the October gala event? And yes, I will. I will have it for that. And, all of their staff and all of their supporting agencies and all of their supporters will be able to see this film in October. But beyond that, I really do see this as a teaching mechanism. If this film goes out to festivals and if it eventually gets streaming, there are going to be women that see it, men that see it, people that work at nonprofit agencies that are trying to work around and in domestic violence issues. If these people see this, they will see the possibility of potentially offering better services to their people through these types of connections with their local agencies, that they will see that there are volunteers that will help to do that, and that the outcomes can be extremely positive. That's my hope.
I see that. Yeah. You want to save lives.
I do. Don't we all?
Yes.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Are things getting worse in this area? I'm afraid to ask. Are people in power feeling more emboldened?
I would say that they are. Here's what everybody in the agency has talked to me about. It got worse during COVID, and it has kind of stayed at that level.
I see.
But with the current administration, agencies like the Women's Center of Montgomery County have lost their federal funding. So they are now, and thank God for this center and their leadership, because they are so creative in how they raise money and bring on volunteers to ensure that their services are not impacted as heavily as they could be. It's really, really impressive. But there are issues around funding, and I am sure that there are other similar agencies around the country that are no longer able to provide the type of service that they were before, because their budgets were small and maybe their budgets were heavy on the federal side. So it has become more difficult. It is only my opinion, and I'm not going to say this is a statistic, that yes, the current administration and language that comes out of that administration may have, I'm going to say have emboldened some people to feel that
bullying is the way to go.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really, you throw all that in with what you're trying to do to support people in domestic violence, and it is a little scary as to what the future holds.
Are there any is there any conversation about secondary trauma for people like you, but people like the workers who go and absorb these stories day after day?
I didn't do any research on that, but I've heard anecdotally that that is an issue with people that work within this industry.
Yes.
And anecdotally, I've heard that people do go to therapists and have talk therapy to try to stay even with everything and not take too much inside. But I see what they do daily, and I'm not sure that I would have the stamina. They are a very unique group of individuals that do this work, strong, driven to help people through issues like this.
Yeah, I hope that they're finding ways to take care of themselves,
Right.
in addition to, taking care of all the people that come through there.
Yes.
So after this big gala and celebration, what's next for you?
Well, we'll try to get it streaming. That's my hope, that we'll maybe go to some film festivals and get this streaming. And then I'm not sure. I am helping a fellow out in California who happens to be a podcaster. And he's doing a film, his first film documentary about his podcast, and asked me to help him.
Really?
Yeah.
May I ask who it is?
Yeah, Carl Landau with
Used to be somebody.
Yes, it's a wonderful podcast. And again, it's sort of in my lane because it's retired people who set out to do something new. Yeah. Yeah. So
he was on my podcast.
he's awesome.
He's funny.
Funny. He's become a good friend, and we were out there.
Pickleballer, right?
Yes,
And he travels, and
Yes.
he's a character.
Yeah, we were out there in October doing the first set of filming and getting things going, and he's been going ever since. And so I'm helping him with that, to get that going.
Oh,
But
I love that he's doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It really is.
He's got a similar story in that he was big corporate guy,
Yes.
and then he was like, now what? Now,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, he was really successful. He did, as I recall, he did these specialty magazines
He
like for
did.
beer making and some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been a lot of fun to work with. It was funny because he came to my premiere for Climbing into Life out in Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
And so we were sitting together with all the crew, and Deirdre was there. And at lunch, he said to me, I've always wanted to make a documentary. And I said to him, well, then you should just do it. And then he said, well, you'd have to help me. And I said, oh, sure. And I thought he was kidding.
Gosh.
And then
sure.
a few months later, he called me and said, I'm going to do it. You need to help me. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love when my guests know each other and it's like this
Yeah.
sweet little network. That is beautiful.
Yeah, it's great.
Any other challenges that have come up for you in making this film?
No, not really. I'm feeling really positive about it.
I hear that.
I feel like it doesn't freak me out anymore. When I look at the statistics, I'm like, okay, I need that. I need to tell this story. I need to tell that statistic. People need to hear this, and they need to know that their next door neighbor might be in trouble.
Are you talking? I'm sure you're talking it up with your friends and
Yes.
and people just in your social circle, saying this is a thing. Keep an eye out.
Yep. And I'm shocked every time I bring it up. Somebody does have a story.
Really?
Oh, yes. So, if 1 in 8 people sitting in the room,
Oh gosh.
yes, have, or 1 in 4, you might think about it a little differently when you're sitting in a large group of people and say somebody here has experienced some form of domestic violence.
Well, when you're living under the patriarchy, that's kind of part of the package, right? It's
Yes.
power over.
Yes. And it is interesting when you're speaking with victims who tell you that they were too ashamed to say anything, or they were too afraid to, maybe they'd lose their job. I'm talking about CEOs and doctors and lawyers and,
Yes, the powerful of us.
it's everybody. It doesn't just look, like I said earlier, this is not a poor person's issue. This is a global issue that needs to be addressed, and people need to know that, shame or not, there are people there to help them, and they can get out of this. They can get out of this. And maybe if they understood that they weren't alone, that there were millions of other people in the same boat, then they would feel a little more comfortable in taking that next step. I've never experienced it myself, thank goodness, but I'm not sure how I would react or how I would ask for help. I can imagine how difficult that would be for some people.
And if there are kids involved,
Yes.
and I think it's so misunderstood that, oh, somehow, you're just supposed to leave. But
Right.
actually, if I'm correct, leaving can really up the danger.
That's absolutely correct. Those are the statistics. That's when it gets the most violent, or it can get the most violent, is when they, leave the situation. And I mean, we read about that. I mean, there are murders.
Oh,
There are
God.
murders right here. There's a case right here in Montgomery County in the recent past where the woman did everything right.
Oh,
She
boy.
got the paper to keep the person away. She changed the locks. She had police driving by the house. There was, everything she did was perfect. And that man found a way to remove an air conditioner unit in the house, climb through, and murder her in her bed with children there. So, I mean, the stories some of them are intense.
Ugh.
But you're absolutely right that can be the most dangerous time. So to be hooked up with, an agency that's going to do a walkthrough of your house and, determine weak spots, or check your car to make sure the person hasn't put a tracker
Oh,
in your car. That's big now. That is
yes.
big now with, like the Apple little
Yes.
tags that you can
Yeah.
place somewhere and then follow somebody. It's really disturbing and awful. But there are people there to help you and to ensure that those things maybe are not happening.
Yeah. So, Melissa, for people who are not in Montgomery County, what should they do if they are being abused?
Every state and almost every county in every state has an 800 number for domestic violence. And it would just be looking that up. And if you're, and having that by your phone, you can look it up on the internet. You can look
Okay.
at, just domestic violence in whatever town, city.
Okay.
And people should keep those numbers if they feel that they might need to call someone. And many times, the center will tell me that they get calls from people that are thinking about leaving. It isn't that bad yet, but they want to know what, services are available to them. The center will talk to them over and over and over again until they're ready to make that
Okay. So
decision.
it's yeah, okay, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
I've seen it back in the day in the phone book.
Yes.
You can certainly Google domestic violence help near me.
Yes.
But maybe 911 is the place to start.
Yes, the call centers, and I filmed inside our call center, and they are trained very well to handle these calls.
Okay.
Yeah, very
Okay.
well. So
So
that
911.
they get them every day.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh gosh. Um, Thank you for doing this work, Melissa, and thank you for your passion and your vision. And I appreciate people who are trying to make the world a better place, especially these days,
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I just hope that I have some impact that helps even one person. That's my goal.
okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure that you've done that. Where can people find out more about you, your work, all of your good stuff? You have a blog, you have all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, the best way is just go to my website, melissadavey, DAVEY.com.
And we will send people there. And when is did you say it was in October?
the October date, it's mid-October, and that's their
Mid-October.
50th anniversary gala. And that's
It'd be a-
when they'll
okay.
show the film. Yeah.
It'll be a good time to also drop the podcast.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I really appreciate, I know that you got a lot going on, and I really appreciate your time and your energy here.
Oh, thanks so much. It's great to catch up.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.